Hello. Happy Monday. Happy Monday morning. um, I can type it on the computer now. Didn't see that before. Um, Real quick, I'm just going to type in the chat just so you guys know I'm here and everything. And we'll get started on today's topic. I actually have a topic today. It's a huge lesson I learned over the weekend. So let me just. There we go. Cool. Okay, so good morning. Hello, how are you doing today? Monday. Um, so over the weekend, I had a aha moment and I had to share it with you guys. So the title of this video, I don't even know what I named it. I forget. I think it's called like Break Up with Your Old Self. So over the past couple months, I've been diving deep into this topic called hypergamy, right? And it's the it's an idea of women leveling up and basically choosing the men that they surround themselves with or the man that they marry based on what that person will provide to their life. Long story short, um, but it's this concept of leveling up that I've noticed has really tugged the heartstrings of a lot of women, myself included. And I don't know, it was just like over the weekend it just hit me, and I was like, leveling up, in order to level up, most people when they level up. Hi, Alana. How are you today? Oh, I remember Alana. I remember you. How are you doing today? Um, so in that process of leveling up, what a lot of women tend to do is they cut off like everybody that they used to associate with that they feel like was bringing them down, right? And something really hit me hard over the weekend was the one person you need to break up with or cut off when you're leveling up in reality is yourself. A lot of times, again, I talked about this before, and it's something that I'm just very passionate about right now is when you're leveling up in life or trying to make your life what you want it to be, manifesting the life you want, we're so quick to cut people off because we feel like they don't align with our values anymore or they don't align with our vision or whatever. But yet you're still holding on to your old self. And it's like, it's just an oxymoron. It's just like how you'll have women who want to level up and then they go out and they get all of these surgeries and makeup and clothes and hair. And, they do all this outer stuff, but they're still ugly on the inside. And then they question and wonder why they're not attracting the type of man that they want, or why they, how many women say they wish they had a group of girlfriends that they could just talk to? Like, how many women wish they had girlfriends in general? There's a reason why we're not attracting the relationships that we want in our life and the situations we want. And it's because you're still your old self on the inside. It doesn't matter how much weight you lose. It doesn't matter how much makeup you put on. It doesn't matter what skin treatments you get or what surgeries you get. If you get your butt and your boobs done, I don't care. If you don't change the inside, nothing's going to change. You know what I mean? So you have to be willing to break up with your old self. And this hit me hard because for me, there's still a lot of things like I've been holding on to that was part of the old Shanae, like the Shanae that was just trying to people please and make stuff happen and, just be seen in a certain light. So, again, this is, I don't know if you guys have checked in on some of the other videos I've done, but something I've talked about a lot lately is how when you're between the ages of just being conceived and being 7 years old, you're an observer of life. You're literally a tape recorder and you record and observe everything that happens. And by the time you're 7, you've been programmed. And it's just programmed in the sense that you've been taught to protect yourself from being hurt. So at some point in between those first 7 years of life, you're hurt in many different ways, emotionally and mentally, sometimes physically, God forbid, but sometimes it does happen, right? And oftentimes you're hurt for being yourself. So you do something and your parents think you're acting out of character and you get punished. Or you say something and somebody makes fun of you. And so what happens is you begin to learn, okay, I can't be myself around others because it hurts them or it makes them upset, or it's not accepted. And so you learn to start wearing a mask. And there's many different masks that you'll put on when you're triggered by certain wounds. Um, and so you start going through life again, wearing these masks and things like that. And unless you deal with those masks, this was something again I had talked about in recent lives. But unless you deal with those wounds from childhood, unless you deal with the personalities, essentially, that's what these masks are. So once you deal with these personalities that you've created, you can then be yourself. And that's when you find you begin attracting the things that you truly want into your life. But until you deal with that inner stuff, you're going to keep attracting all of the stuff that your fake personalities that you've created. And again, it's like the example of when people, like, parents say, why do you act different around your friends than you do around us? Why are you different with your friends than you are with family or around coworkers or whatever? And again, it's because you have certain personalities that you put out to the world, and you have to be willing to break up with that part of yourself so that you can be who you truly are and experience that. And so for me, one of those things that I was holding on to was the need to be a teacher, in the sense of I need to make online courses. This was something I've held on to for years. And it was this idea that I can't create the life. It was like, okay, so I've always had this idea that I just wanted to just create a life worth living. That's always been something that I've wanted to do. Um, and because of how I grew up and the things that I saw and the mask that I made for my life, I felt like in order to do that, I had to like become a really popular online teacher. And so I had a lot of my inspirations for people who were big gurus, in the spiritual community and in just like in the life coaching community and stuff like that. So I had this idea that in order for me to create a life worth living, I had to go that route. And that was an old way of thinking that's been stuck with me for years. And one thing that hits me really hard now that I think about it is the fact that when something is meant for you, it's not a struggle to obtain it. It's not a struggle to get to that space that you're looking to get to. And if it is a struggle, it's because you're not programmed to be able to reach that destination. And in the past, I took that to mean, well, oh, it's so hard for me to create these courses and to stick to them and to actually, feel passionate about teaching these things. When in reality, I'm more passionate about me learning this stuff and applying it to my life, and then just being able to share what I learned with others in a sense of, oh, I read this book. This is a great book. Go read that book if you want. But instead, I kept trying to say, no, I need to gather all this information, and then I need to put it into a course and then sell it to people so that I can make money and then create the life that I want to live. And all this time, life has literally been giving me opportunities like, oh, Shanae, hey, you want to live a life of, happiness and joy and peace and all of this stuff. Here's these opportunities, take them. And I'm sitting there like, no, 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 because this is the way I'm supposed to do it. I'm supposed to be the teacher, and that's how I'm supposed to make my income. And I was watching this video. Sometimes I watch like astrology forecasts or tarot readings. Um, and I don't know, something, I was just going down a rabbit hole. And so for the month of May, I was reading, not reading, but watching one of these videos from someone I've never come across before. And I was kind of half tuned in, half like not paying attention because I'm playing with my dogs. And all of a sudden, she pulls this card, and the card has like this full paragraph of just a description on it, and she's reading the card out loud, and it immediately just like smacked me. It was like somebody just smacked me in the back of my head, like, you need to get this. And so this is why I'm going to read what came out to me, because it was so powerful. It was powerful enough for me to realize that I've been holding myself back. I'm the Dusty. So if any of you guys follow anybody in the hypergamous field, the whole field of leveling up, you know what being a Dusty means. It's basically somebody who holds you back in life and expects you to just like build them up and whatever. But in a sense, a lot of women are like, oh, I have to leave the Dusty so I can get me a rich man, right? So in this case, my true self, my spirit, is that rich man. And then the self that I created because of the wounding I may have experienced as a child is the Dusty. And so while in the leveling up community, so many of us are focused on letting go of the dusty man or letting go of the dusty people in our life. In reality, you're the dusty, and you have to let yourself go so that you can become the rich person. You know what I'm saying? It's to me, it's like, before you look outwards to other people, you have to look inwards first. So anyway, so I'm watching this video, and I'm half tuned in, half tuned out, and she starts reading what this card says, and it said and by the way, it's dealing with career. So it was a video that was specifically about finances and career for Virgos for the month of May. And so she's reading this card about career, and it says, if your dominant intent is to feel joy while you're doing the work, your intentions of freedom, joy, and growth will come quickly and easily into alignment. See your career as one of creating a joyful life experience. You're not a creator of things or regurgitator of what someone else has created or a gatherer of stuff. You are a creator, and the subject of your creation is your joyful life experience. That's your mission, that's your quest, and that is why you're here. When I tell you, that smacked me. I had to pause and rewind just so I could type it into my phone, because, y'all, it made me realize that this whole time I have literally been doing the stuff that is holding me back. So I have been trying to be a creator of things, something I was not passionate about from when I tried to start my own fashion line in college, and I was selling I would take like clothes from Goodwill and like turn them into new things and sell them on Etsy. That didn't last long. I, had a body butter skincare line that didn't last long. So I've tried to create things, and none of it has sustained. It hasn't been enough for me to feel like, oh, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. The channel where I got the reading, I think it's, hold on, let me look it up. I subscribed to her because I was like, this was powerful. I need to subscribe to you. You might have more messages for me. I think it's like Ruby Reads Tarot or something. Let me see. Yeah, Ruby Reads Tarot is the channel name. So yeah, I've tried to be a creator of things. It did not work out. The next thing that was mentioned was a regurgitator of what someone else has created. That hit me hard, because my entire last 2 or 3 years of trying to build courses has been literally me reading other people's books. Yes, Ruby Reads Tarot. Perfect. That's exactly the channel. It's been me trying to take other people's information and basically regurgitate it, essentially. It's me, and it brings me back even to college when I wanted to create my own fashion line. And I was part of this like entrepreneurship group, and there was a competition. I was trying to win funding for this fashion line. And one of the guys who was in charge of the group and the actual competition, he looked at me and he said, well, why bother creating a fashion line if you know you're really good at curating pieces? Why don't you just go and curate other people's pieces and create your own shop? And that at the time pissed me off, because I was like, no, I'm supposed to be a creator. I'm supposed to make this stuff myself, right? This is, again, remember, this is this false personality, this dusty self I've created that's holding me back in life. And then at some point I began to say, well, maybe he was right, because I didn't have success in making things for myself. And so I started to say, maybe that man was right back in my college days. Maybe I just need to curate stuff and then give that to people. And so that started me into that wave of, I'm going to start curating information, putting it into course like flow, and then sharing it with people and charging them for it so that they can learn, because the way I see things, the way I piece things together makes sense, right? Which, is true. I mean, a lot of times the books I read, I don't take everything I read from the book. I take maybe 20-30% of it that's actually helpful. And I was like, if I could take the 20 to 30% of every book and put it into a course, it could really help people, right? So that was me doing that second piece of regurgitating other people's stuff. And then the last piece was being the gatherer of stuff, which has been me literally for the last few years, just gathering so much information, so many pages of notes on my computer, index cards full of notes, books full of highlights. It's like this mental this mental knowledge. I have like a library in my mind, right? And I've literally been hoarding it. That's what a gatherer of stuff made me feel like. It's somebody who's hoarding stuff. And so when she read that, I realized in that moment that this whole time I've been doing exactly what was keeping me from living the life that I wanted to live, which was, as was written in the actual card, was a joyful life experience. And I realized in that moment I have to stop. I have to stop what I'm doing. Like I have to stop trying to teach courses when I'm not really passionate about it, and it keeps me from enjoying my life, because I can't tell you guys the last time I read a book because I thoroughly wanted to enjoy it for myself and use it strictly for me to be able to learn. A lot of times when I read books, it's half in for me and half in for, oh, how can I use this to help my course? You understand? And so it's like I don't get the full effect of me being able to learn from that person who wrote the book, because I'm always in the corner of my mind thinking, oh, let me turn these notes into something I can use. And so instead of me actually going through the process that I need to be going through with whatever book I'm reading, I'm like half in and half out. And so the last, like over the weekend, it's just been weird because I was like, okay, I'm just going to stop trying to, and it's weird because it's like I've created this habit where every time I read, I highlight and I make notes so that I can put it in a course in a future. And like over the weekend, anytime I read something, I decided I was just going to read it for me. Or if I watched a YouTube video, I realized, I need to just watch this for me, not for what I can then take from it and put into some sort of course to share. Yes, exactly. No pleasure. There was no joy there. It was like me forcing. Um, so I decided I was going to hang up my teaching hat, in the sense of everybody's a teacher. Anytime you encounter someone and they're teaching you something. But I mean, in the sense of, I'm like not going to sit here and try to teach people stuff anymore, or sit here and spend hours and hours putting course information together when I am not passionate about it at all. I thought I was, but the amount of things that goes into making a course, you have to be passionate about really teaching, because it's not enough to just type a bunch of notes together. It's making videos, it's recording audios, it's making pictures, and making a course that flows, something that you would want to go through. And I found that over time it became a drag. It became something that I just was not excited to do, and I began to have guilt. And anytime you feel guilt around something, or you feel like something is a burden, it's not meant for you. But again, I had this part of me that was like insistent that this was the way for me to create the life I wanted. When again, in reality, life has given me so many opportunities outside of that. For instance, almost a year ago now, I was introduced to options trading in the stock market. Now, this is something that does not require me to teach anybody at all. It actually doesn't even require me to interact with people. It's something where I can literally click buttons on a computer and make money. It's literally that simple. Like, you just have to be willing to go through the training and education and understand, so you can like not lose all your money. Um, it's about managing risk, and you have to understand how to do that, right? And so I've been sitting on this opportunity for like the last year, and didn't really start taking the education portion seriously until maybe January of this year. So it's been about 5 months now that I've actually been educating myself and doing practice trading, when it comes to options trading and things like that. And again, over the weekend, I just realized I could have been made money from this opportunity, but I've been holding myself back. Literally, I've stopped myself from. There's days where I want to go do a practice trade. There's weeks where I want to do more education and just keep practicing. And then there's times when I actually want to say, okay, I'm gonna take some real money this time and actually do a trade, and take that risk. But I've held myself back each time because I'm like, oh no, I got to work on this course. I've literally been holding myself back. And the same thing, YouTube is another area of life where I'm passionate about just making videos and connecting with people online. But I turned it into this whole thing of, I have to be a teacher and make videos where I'm constantly teaching people stuff. And it made YouTube not fun for me. And so there would be periods of time where I would just disappear and come back and disappear and come back, because it was like, oh, well, now I have something to teach about. Let me come back and like promote all this stuff. And so again, YouTube, something that I've loved. I've been doing YouTube since I was like in college, like freshman year of college. So it's been since like maybe 2011, 2012 of me being on YouTube and just in multiple different channels over the years and just enjoying creating content and having fun online. But I took the fun out of it, literally. Like it was no longer a joy for me, and it became just strictly business. Now, yes, do I make money from YouTube? A little bit. You know, not enough to like go crazy and have fun, but I realized I've been holding myself back because one, I haven't been consistent enough to even make a good amount of money on YouTube. I haven't been consistent. You know, I've been, again, on and off. I haven't had any passion. People can read bullshit a mile away and see when you're not being your true self. So people aren't going to be attracted. Um, and so again, that was another opportunity life gave me of saying, hey, this is another stream of income you can have in your life where you can have fun, connect with people, and do something you love and have money come in. And my dusty self, turned it into something that was just not fun or enjoyable. And so again, it's like I put out there that I want to have this life where it's just fun. I don't want to have to work hard for money. I want money to flow into my life easily. And life is like, okay, you know, here's the opportunities to do so. And yet I'm like, wait, no, I can't have that. I'm not worth that. And that's something I've talked about before was me realizing how low my self-confidence and self-worth was of, you know, for the longest time and not realizing it. So yeah, this weekend I realized, you know, I have to be willing to break up with who I was. And that means letting go of it. That means I shut down any of the courses that I was creating. Now, one course that I had created in the past that people did enroll in, that one is still there so that they still have access forever. But as far as me creating anything new, I shut everything down. Um, and I just like started doing things for the pleasure of doing them, like reading books because I actually enjoy what I'm getting from the book and me realizing things about myself and me 100% focused on reading the book to enjoy it and to learn from it, not because I'm trying to see what I can take from it to put into a future course. And so my life for the last couple of days has been a lot more enjoyable in that sense. I haven't even it's even like I still like get triggered in the sense of I still, you know, those habits aren't going to end in one day, but I catch myself. So like over the weekend again, I caught myself feeling guilty because I hadn't worked on a course. I caught myself feeling guilty because I was like, oh, I need to read so I can take some notes, you know, and I would just be like, no, we're not doing that anymore. You know, we're not, that's not who we are. That's who you thought you were, but you were incorrect. So major life lesson for me, that I was just like, man, this morning I was like, I have to share this because it's just, we hold ourselves back in so many ways. And again, we're always wanting to level up and we're always ready to cut people off outside of ourselves and to leave situations and things like that. And that's great. You know, there are definitely toxic people and toxic situations that we do need to let go of. But you have to remember that you're going to continue to draw those same types of people and situations to yourself if you don't cut your old self off. You have to be willing to say, you know, just for one, being appreciative of that self that you did create because you created it to protect yourself in the first place. Because at some point in the first 7 years of your life, you felt like you weren't good enough to be yourself around others. So you felt like you had to put on a false show in order to make others happy, in order to be accepted. Because that's really what we're looking for, right? Is love and acceptance from others. And so you start putting on a show for others so that you'll feel accepted. Because at some point, again, when you were younger, you weren't accepted for who you were. You did or said something that pissed somebody off and they didn't like it and they retaliated against you and you took it as, oh, I can't be myself around this person. And so for your entire life, you've been wearing this mask and these different personalities around different people because every person is going to trigger you in a different way and it's going to cause a different personality to emerge basically. Um, and you haven't been yourself. And you know, a lot of times people realize this and they want to get mad, but it's important that you realize that this self that I built, this dusty self, right, in the level up community, this dusty I created was to protect myself. And that's like the first step to you really being able to let go of that old self, because you accept it and you appreciate it and you understand why that self was created. If you approach it with, you're holding me back in life and we need to, imagine if you were to break up with someone in real life, and it could be a really dramatic breakup where you're talking a whole bunch of shit to that person and making them feel like crap, or it can be an easy breakup where you just both walk your separate ways because you just realize that you've grown beyond each other and that you no longer need each other. You know what I'm saying? It's like two different types of breakups, and the one that you choose is going to affect you. If you choose to break up with your ego or your false self in a way that's painful, the whole process of healing is going to be painful. You're going to get triggered all the time, and you're going to be upset and mad at yourself all the time. You're going to feel guilt all the time. It's not going to be a fun process. You break up in a nice, gentle way with your ego and saying, I appreciate you for protecting me. I understand why you had me do the things that I did, yada, yada, yada. It soothes your ego a bit, right? And it's kind of like, oh, okay, yeah, I can take a step back from trying to run Shanae's life. I realize I don't have to do that anymore. Shanae's like, she got this. She understands who she is and blah, blah, blah. Two totally different scenarios when it comes to breaking up with your past self. So that's just something I've been working on since this weekend. It's just whenever I catch myself falling into those old habits, reminding myself that I don't have to live that way, that I have been given the perfect opportunities from life to be able to generate an income for myself and do it in a way that feels good. For some people, teaching and making courses is their passion, it is their purpose, but that's not mine. And I had to become okay with finally letting it go. And it's funny because over the last few years, I've definitely had moments where I felt like I wasn't meant to do this, but I kept holding on to it. And that's what we tend to do. I mean, you compare it to real life where people talk about leveling up and having dusty men in their lives, and they hold on to these relationships because they're afraid that if they let go of that relationship, they won't get another man in their life, right? That's typically the situation. And it's the same with you holding on to stuff in your life, whether it's things that you think you should be doing career-wise or financials, or even like if you think that you should be married with kids in a house with a white picket fence, and you're realizing that maybe that's not what you really want, but you've been holding on to that idea because you're like, if I let it go, then what? And it's that it's realizing that if I let that go, then I can be free. That's essentially what it is. I felt a burden be lifted because I was like, I no longer have to come to YouTube with a sense of I need to teach. I no longer have to feel like I need to release a course. And I feel like it's a burden putting that together. Instead, no, I can wake up and say, maybe I want to go do a trade today, or maybe I want to go live on YouTube today. Maybe I just want to make a video today. Maybe I just want to post something on social media. That's the life that I want to live. Everybody's going to be different, but for me, I like that ease. I like the ease of being able to wake up and take a look at the market and say, okay, well, I'm going to open this kind of options trade today, and I'm going to, with a click of a button, know that I'm going to make money within a certain span of time, and yada, yada, yada. Or I know that if I go live on YouTube as much as I want to, or if I post videos as much as I want to, those videos are going to have ads on them, and those ads are going to generate an income. And the more consistent I am and the more fun I have on YouTube, the more money that I will make. Because again, it's it's like I had read when I read that tarot card thing out loud that the girl had did in that Virgo May 2020 thing. It's my purpose here is to have a joyful life. That's my purpose. Your purpose might be different. So don't sit here and think, well, my purpose is not her purpose and blah blah blah. Like this is my purpose, to create a joyful life. That is it. And when I heard that, I just felt a sense of, I literally had to stop and pause. And then when I wrote it down, I read it to my husband. I was so excited because I was just like, it was like I finally realized I could give myself permission to live the life I wanted to live, and that I didn't have to keep doing things the way I thought I had to. I was just like, man, you mean I don't have to do this? Like, I don't have to. I just thought I did because for whatever reason, my ego thought that was the way to go. And it's not even for whatever reason. I know what it was. It deals with rejection and me feeling like I need to be a leader a well-known person who has a lot of followers, specifically. Because at some point in my life, between the years of conception and 7 years old, I felt rejected. And every time I would feel that feeling of rejection, that new personality I was building to keep myself from feeling rejected was getting stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger. So again, going through my life, anytime I felt rejected by anyone in my life, I put on this mask. And for me, that mask was, you know what, I'm going to get really big and famous on social media and I'm going to be known and people are going to listen to me and I won't be rejected anymore. So that's the mask I created. And it was like in that moment when I read that, when I heard that initially, and it was like, you're here to have a joyful life. I was like, I can let it go. I can let that part of me go where I felt like I was rejected so much by so many different people and that I wasn't listened to. And I'm going to show them. I'm going to build a following of people who listen to me and accept me and will never reject me because they love me and they hang on every single word I say. And again, I was trying to build this life and it wasn't working. Why? Because my spirit was not meant to do that, So, so let's see. You're still teaching, but now it's effortless. Exactly. That's how I want to live. I don't ever want to get on here and feel like something is forced ever again in my life. Mine is shame and guilt. Yeah. Shame and guilt is something I think we all feel. Shame and guilt are symptoms of all the wounds that we feel as we grow up in life. I mean, anytime you feel shame and guilt, that's just pointing straight to that false self, straight to that ego. Your spirit will never make you feel guilty or shameful of anything. That is always going to be your ego. And anytime somebody triggers you, even if it's you triggering yourself and you feel shame and guilt, know that that's your ego and that's that self you created to protect your spirit, essentially. It's like it's almost like, imagine when you're a kid and it's like this inner child, you're this child who's hurt, and so you create like this imaginary friend to protect you. That's kind of what your ego becomes. At least that's how I like to see the ego. It's this imaginary friend you've created to keep you protected and to make you feel good. And so this imaginary friend walks around with you all the time and says things to you to make you, in a sense, feel protected. But it does more harm than good. It does, because it will make you feel guilty about things you shouldn't feel guilty about. It'll cause you to go in a direction opposite of where your spirit or your childlike self really wants to go. And so the way I look at it is like, as you begin to heal that inner child and you begin to let go of the ego bit by bit, it's almost like that inner child becomes an inner adult. It actually, your inner child actually gets the chance to mature and see how strong it is. Because again, we created the ego out of an idea of us being weak and us being a victim. And so as soon as you're able to understand that and accept that and appreciate why the ego's there, you're able to start letting it go and chipping away at it bit by bit and allowing that inner child to grow and become that inner adult. That's why I always say we're all just kids on the playground hurting each other and bullying each other, because a lot of us are. We're all just like these 7-year-olds who never healed from our wounds from the first 7 years, and we're walking around with our little imaginary friends, bullying others and bullying ourselves at the same time. And we're just all walking around hurt, not living life the way. I mean, how many people wake up every day not excited to do whatever it is that they have to do that day? I mean, how many of us say, I have to do this? Like, I'm just like, I don't want to live that way. I want to be able to wake up and be excited and happy and just feel peace, just feel peace every day. I mean, yeah, stuff can happen, but it's that one thing I've always talked about, is just being centered, feeling like the sage who's just not shaken. The only way you become that is if you let your inner child no longer be a child and actually grow up and be an adult. But the ego kind of stops you from being able to do that. But the ego is something you created as a way to protect yourself. So there's that. But anyways, yeah, so that was a major lesson that I learned. over the weekend, and something that, I'm still implementing because I still catch myself, you know, I'm still in that healing process of healing wounds from the first 7 years of life. And then the thing too is you're wounded in those first 7 years, and you create this sense of ego, or this false sense of self, or this false personality. But every time you get triggered with those same wounds, you just put another brick. It's like you're building a wall, and every time you're wounded, every time you're triggered, you put another brick and another brick and another brick. And sometimes you build a wall so high and so thick that it takes some time to break that wall down and finally be, fully healed. So patience is a virtue. Appreciate that wall you built, understand why you built that wall, and give yourself the space and the time to really be able to heal. Like, don't try to rush your healing process. You're gonna, even when you have a realization about something about yourself, you're still going to find yourself doing some of the same habits, because it takes time for those habits to actually no longer be practiced. It's that understanding that your brain is wired a certain way, and you're literally rewiring the neurons in your brain, and it takes time, and whether you do that through affirmations, through meditation, through just journaling, or however you decide to go through your healing process, just know it's going to take time, and it won't be a night and day thing. So anybody who promises you that it's a night and day shift is a liar, because you're not going to break a habit in 30 seconds. I don't care what form of holistic practice you're doing. I don't care if it's Reiki. I don't care if it's meditation. I don't care if it's a full moon ritual. I don't care. It's going to take time to break that habit. It's going to take time to let go of that belief, because that belief penetrates so deep. These wounds from your first 7 years in life are so deep. It penetrates every single thing you do, every thought you have, everything you say, every way that you're acting has been penetrated by these wounds. And so, yeah, you may heal one aspect, but know that it's going to take you time to heal the full picture. You know what I'm saying? So be patient with yourself, please. And celebrate those victories when you do have an aha moment. And celebrate those times when you catch yourself about to partake in an old habit of yours. Like me today, somebody on my Facebook feed posted something about Trump that I just thought was ridiculous. Because he said, because of one word he used to describe nurses. He said it was beautiful that nurses were basically like warriors, or like soldiers, in the sense that they're risking their lives with this corona pandemic, right? And people went crazy because he used the word beautiful to describe it, and because he compared nurses to soldiers, and saying, well, nurses should be guarded. He just blaming him and saying it's his fault that it spread in the first place. It's his fault that the nurses aren't adequately prepared. It's his fault if nurses die, and yada yada yada. And there's a part of me that gets so defensive when I feel like someone is unjustly being called out of character. It doesn't matter who it is. Like, it has nothing to do with, Trump being Trump. It's just how can you get so mad because he used this one word, or because he made this analogy? When in reality, when I look at it, I'm like, nurses are putting their lives on the line just like a soldier would. And people, I guess this is coming from me. This is a tangent, but this is coming from me, someone who has parents who were in the military. I grew up a military brat. I have family who were nurses. So I kind of have a big picture view here. And so I'm seeing, okay, well, military people aren't adequately supplied either for anything that they're doing. A lot of times they don't have all the tools that they need, because the military, even though it gets a lot of funding, their funding gets spread into so many different things that not everybody gets everything they need. And so, yes, are nurses right now in the same spot that military people are? Yeah. And anytime you become a nurse or a doctor, you're at risk when you're dealing with people who are sick. Anybody can become contagious and spread something to you, even with masks and things like that on. And so to me, I'm like, looking at this big picture, but I'm letting it get to me. And so I type a comment, and I'm like, I don't understand, blah, 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 blah. And then someone who I don't even know responds to me, and it triggers me because this person tries to belittle my character. This person who doesn't know who I am, has never met me in their life, tries to say that I don't use critical thinking, and basically that I'm stupid for not seeing how wrong it is for him to use the word beautiful. And I responded back, and after I responded back, I sat there and I said, man, I just allowed that person to trigger me. I allowed that person to trigger me and feel like I was being rejected, feel like I was being unjustly critiqued, because this person has no idea who I am. They have no idea what my situation is. They don't know that I've grown up with military people. They don't know that I have family who are nurses. They don't know that I understand the scope of the situation. But I allowed it to trigger me. And so I allowed myself to get angry and want to basically talk shit back at this person. And so that's a moment where, hey, I realized, oh man, I'm being triggered. And so my wall went up. And instead of getting mad at myself, I was just like, well, I had to accept that that's where I was in that moment, and just be like, that's where I am. So that's, acceptance, patience, appreciation for where you are and where you're going, and the healing you have experienced, and celebrating every moment along the way is super important, because you're going to be triggered. And that wall, every time you're triggered, that wall goes up, and you're going to act out in a certain way. And you just have to accept that that's how it is right now. But the more you become aware of it, the faster it changes, or the more it changes. I become aware of, I allowed that man to trigger me. Who is this man? Why am I allowing this man to trigger me in that way? Why am I allowing him to hurt me? Yes, he's a hurt kid, and he's projecting onto me his emotional hurts and his defensiveness and his need to be offended by whatever the president said. But I don't need to allow that to hurt me and to make me act out, because I'm the goddamn table. You know what I mean? That's what it reminds me of. Like, I am the queen of this realm that I'm creating, and I don't have to allow him to hurt me. I can be mature, and I can say, you know what? You're hurt. I get it. We're just going to end the conversation here. I don't have to, keep it going. Or, if I want to, I could choose to be the asshole and talk shit back, But at the end of the day, it's me realizing, okay, if I do that, I'm being triggered, and I'm acting out that trigger. But again, it's me understanding that, accepting that in that moment I'm triggered, and that's what happened. Eventually, you get to the point where you can laugh when people do that stuff. So the stuff that might have been able to piss you off in the past makes you laugh, and you just move past it. You're not shaken by it. So I know in the future, somebody's going to post something else about somebody else, whether it's somebody talking shit about Adele losing weight, or, it doesn't matter. Somebody's going to say something, and it may trigger me in that moment, but I won't feel the need to respond. You know what I'm saying? And that's how you'll know that you're healing. That's how you know you've matured that part of your inner child, and that part is no longer that little kid who's hurt, because you're able to look at it and just move on. So it's knowing that it's a process. This healing process is a process. It's a journey. It takes step by step. You're taking down this wall brick by brick. And again, if you just accept yourself in every moment, even if you're doing shit that you just know makes no sense, accept that you were triggered, and you acted out that trigger in that moment, and that you'll get better because you're becoming aware of it. It's, at least you were aware of it. You know what I mean? You could be in that position that you used to be in the past, where you had no idea you were being triggered, and you were just acting out like a robot. You know what I'm saying? So always celebrate yourself along the journey, because anytime you become aware of what you're doing and how you're being triggered, that's a huge victory. Being aware of yourself is a huge thing. So yeah, I think that's what I have to say today. It's like, you created a Dusty, now you've got to let the Dusty go. And that means breaking down that wall brick by brick that you've created because you were wounded as a child in the past. I'm going to make another video soon where I actually, because there's some really good books that I've come across that deal with the wounds you may have, incurred as a child, and how they reflect in your physical body, meaning physical characteristics, everything from like the way your eyes are shaped, to whether you're skinny or fat, or whether you have good posture or bad posture, whether you have areas that are flabby. Your physical body literally reflects the wounds that you've dealt with as a child. So it goes in depth with that. These books talk about your eating habits. They talk about your actual behaviors, the beliefs you may hold about yourself. So I'm going to make another video probably this week. It might It may or may not be a live video, but I'll be making another video soon because I think it's like a group of like 2 or 3 books by the same author that has really changed my perspective on ego and on the mask that you wear and on the woundings that you experience as a child and just the process of healing. So I'll be sharing those books this week with links and stuff so that you can purchase those if you want. They're not my books, but really, really great author and really eye-opening stuff. So again, I'll be making another video because I don't want this video to drag on. But I'll be making a video specific about that. I'll be doing that a lot where I just share different books that I've read and I will be sharing them with you guys because again, I'm at the point now where I'm ready to let go of me feeling the need to be a teacher. And so instead, it's just anytime I read a really awesome book or come across an awesome video or whatever, I'm going to just share it with you guys instead of trying to hoard the information and turn it into a course because I'm letting that go. You know, I'm not the course maker anymore. I just enjoy talking for a living on YouTube and clicking buttons in the stock market and making money that way. That stuff I enjoy. So that's what I'm going to continue to do. So yeah, look forward to those kinds of videos coming. And then I'll also just keep going live and sharing videos on things that I learned about myself and what my journey is like, I guess. So anyways, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Thank you so much, Alana, for chatting with me today. I love when I get to like chat with you guys in the comments and everything. That's the main reason I love going live. So you'll probably see me go live a lot more because as much fun as it is to get comments, you know, when I like just publish a video, it's more fun to me when it's like real time and you guys are just responding to me and I get to see what you're writing and then I get to respond back. Now, only if YouTube would make it so that I could actually bring people into the live and talk to them, that would be cool. Yeah, that'd be cool. But anyways, thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I will see you next time.